Hey friends, it's Misty Eyez, and I have a courageous conversation for you. I just recorded this courageous conversation. I had brunch with some of the girlies, and this is something I wanted to discuss with them today, but we talked about so many things and not this at all. So I'm coming to you. This courageous conversation is for the dolls. And beware, it's long because I am going to explain a lot of thinking in my head and why I'm confused. And we're going to talk about non-binary, genderqueer, transgender. But I want your feedback, and I want your opinions, and I want your thoughts, and I need your help. So stay tuned for this lengthy, courageous conversation. Hey girlies. So I have something on my heart and mind that's been troubling me for a couple days now. Earlier this week, I had a very difficult conversation with someone calling from a Broward County or Fort Lauderdale, I'm assuming probation officer maybe, or case manager for a recently unincarcerated individual. And the conversation was about transgender housing. So my questions were simply, what was the person assigned at birth? How does the person present? So this person was told to call me from somebody, I don't know. And it was all done on the phone. I don't know the case manager or probation officer, and I don't know the client or the recently unincarcerated individual. So I was like, all right, don't be afraid to hurt my feelings. Don't be afraid. Just, I'm going to ask you some open, honest questions, and I need to know your interpretation of what's going on. She said, okay. And I said, what is your observation of this person? And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, when you look at them, do you see a man or do you see a woman? And she's like, a man. And I said, are they attempting to present masculine or attempting to present feminine? And they said they're presenting masculine. And I said, okay, now was this person assigned male or female at birth? And they said assigned male at birth. And I said, okay. And then I said, has this person been on hormones and or taken any surgeries? I don't know, I didn't ask. As far as your perception, has this person taken any hormones and or been undergone any surgeries? I don't think so. Okay. And my last question, is this person male attracted and or female attracted? And she said, I have no idea. And I said, okay. The reason I asked all of these questions many years ago, probably the year 2015, 16, 17, like in the beginning of my nonprofit career, I had a client come to me for assistance, and they were assigned male at birth. And as we know, as the dolls know, you are born transgender in your brain, period. You might not realize it until later in life. Some of us know at 4 years old. Some of us find out when we're much older. And we don't get to choose the brain we get. We don't get to choose what happens to us in the womb. First trimester, we're all XX. Second trimester, the penis or the clitoris is developed. And in the third trimester, the brain is developed. 1 in 330 humans get a brain testosterone level that the vagina or penis did not get, or the clitoris or penis, specifically the tubular trans or penis or clitoris. Trans people are trans because they're born trans, not because they transitioned. Right. We know that. And I'm just explaining that to anybody that's not a doll watching this video. Also, there are many levels to transitioning. There's medical transition, taking hormones. There's social transition, presenting to the world masculine or feminine in your wardrobe, hair, makeup, etc. So there's medical, social, legal transition. So I've changed my name, I've changed my gender marker, my documentation has changed. And then there's surgical transitions, and that's breast implant, facial feminization, trachea shave, phalloplasty, vaginoplasty, all that. So to the best of this case manager's or this probation officer's knowledge, this was a non-operative, non-medical trans person. Now, I did tell this case manager this. I said, this individual has probably been struggling with their identity for a very, very, very long time. It took me many years. I knew I was a girl at 4. I knew I was attracted to boys at 9, but it took me many years to say it out loud and many, many years to do something about it. And what's funny is oftentimes we, even if we took 15 years to look in the mirror and say, I'm gay or I'm trans or I'm whatever, we tell our friends and family and expect them to be totally okay with it today. Like it took me 15 years to be okay with myself, but I want you to be comfortable with it immediately. I want you to be comfortable with it now. So the good news is that this client or this recently unincarcerated individual is now comfortable with their identity, with the brain that they were assigned at birth, before they were born, rather. And some people, it takes years. Some of us do drugs. Some of us become alcoholics. Some of us do drastic measures like cover ourselves in tattoos or join the military, try to force us to be hyper masculine or hyper feminine. I'm just going to be a bodybuilder. I'm going to force myself to be what society expects me to be. And it takes some of us a very long time to come to terms with the fact that we are who we are. No matter how much you numb it, no matter how much you try to intoxicate yourself, you're going to wake up one day and be like, dude, I'm still me. I can move, I can get covered in tattoos, but I'm still me. So I told this person, this probation officer probably, or case manager, that I would highly encourage this recently unincarcerated individual to reach out to me and I will help them. I will help them get linked to medical biomedical navigation. I will help get them linked to HIV prevention and or HIV navigation. I will help them socially transition. I will help them legally transition. I will help them with all these things. But for this person's safety right now, today, I think we should put them with the guys. Again, never having met this person, but judging on this person's perspective of what's happening in this person's individual thing, this inmate or this recently unincarcerated person needs to be placed with men for their safety. Now, if they were me and had 42 G's and they put me with men, I don't know if we'd be safe right now. But somebody who recently came to terms with their identity and has had no modifications, that's a different situation. Don't let the transgender status be a barrier to helping them find housing. We live in a state called Florida, and there is many laws with our governor and many laws with our president that there's no transgender housing. So pretend that this is just a regular guy getting help. However, encourage this client to reach out to me, and I will also help them in the behind the scenes transition so that when they are ready to stand to their own 2 feet, they can pass as feminine and or slide into that femininity a lot easier. Now, courageous. I mean, they are courageous walking out of jail and saying, I'm a woman. I applaud them. Having done no physical changes, no medical changes, no social wardrobe changes, and just being like, I'm a girl. I applaud them. Now, back in the 90s, I lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I went to Oral Roberts University from 94 to 98. And I remember back in the 90s, the girls would get arrested and go into jail and tell people they were women. So they would get hormones in jail and come out as women. They would go in as boys and come out as the girls. That's how you would get free hormones back in the day. Because back in the 90s, we didn't have doctors willing to help us. So we were all self-medicating and all putting our life at risk. Risking our kidneys and livers and things like that with self-medication. It was very dangerous back then to transition. And now, thankfully, we have doctors that do it within safety guidelines and things like that. But don't let their, this is what I said to them, and henceforth the conversation I want to have and or question. Put them with the guys for now. Now, back in the day, 2015, 16, 17, early in my nonprofit case management history, I had a client come to me detoxing from crystal meth. She had 100% socially transitioned. She did not own boy clothes at all, but non-operative and non-medical transition. So I marched with her down to the detox facility and I demanded she be placed with the women. Again, boy hair without a wig on, 100% male body. So now the reason I ask if they have medically transitioned or not, and are they female attracted or male attracted, is this client that I marched down to this detox facility. And fortunately, this detox facility was very affirming and was like, yeah, they can be housed. I explained to them they don't have any boy clothes, whatever. They gladly put them in a room with 3 other women and explained to the 3 other women that this was a trans person coming in, blah, blah, blah. Worst case scenario happened. And I learned a lot from this client or this situation. They slept in their boxers. They were female attracted and chasing and flirting with their roommates. And when they woke up in the morning, they had morning wood because they were not medically transitioning and would walk to the bathroom in the morning with boners. And there's 3 other roommates that are seeking their own sobriety and or may not be male attracted and or male abused or whatever. And now a person sleeps completely male, takes their wig off, their clothes off, and sleeps in male boxers with a roommate, well, 3 roommates. And now that also plays into a factor of when I'm trying to house someone into a sobriety or whatever situation. But there's no trans housing period. So I told this person they need to be housed with men, but I will gladly help them transition in the background. Now, the question I have for the dolls: all humans in life transition, period. We transition from kindergartners to elementary school, or we transition from elementary school to middle school to high school. Some of us transition to college students. Some of us transition to graduate students, right? Some of us go to the doctoral program, right? So when you are in the doctoral program, when you tell people, I'm a PhD candidate, right? You don't tell people, I'm a PhD because I'm in school to get a PhD. Now, I remember the movie Grease. She's like, I'm a beautician. Girl, you've been here 2 weeks. You in beauty school, girl. You a beauty school dropout, in fact. You ain't no hairdresser, girl. But when you're a PhD candidate, that means you're in the doctoral program and or a PhD student learning about your PhD. You have not defended your dissertation. You have not graduated. You have not been given your PhD yet. You are not a doctor yet, or MD, whatever. As a dinosaur trans woman, in my generation, you passed or you didn't. And I will say comfortably that it took me about 8 years to go through that non-binary gender queer land. And if somebody called me ma'am, great. If somebody called me sir, okay. Any and all pronouns were welcome because I was in that blurry andro stage of my life. I was a diva by night because I was doing shows on stage, and I invested in my female wardrobe. I invested in my female look. I didn't give a crap what I looked like in the daytime. I had raggedy t-shirts, raggedy shorts, whatever. Like, I did not care about my boy look. I invested in my girl look. But for those 8 years, if I'm in the Home Depot, I was like, oh God. I look down, and does this outfit enhance my hormone breasts? Does this outfit enhance my hormone body? Or do I look more masculine today? For those 8 years, if I were panicking in the Home Depot bathroom, I had to think, do I do diarrhea in the men's room or do I do diarrhea in the women's room? Like, where am I safest? Where am I least likely to get killed or murdered or attacked or made fun of? What's safest for me? And that would change from day to day. Like, I would literally be like, oh God, not in this top. I gotta go to the men's bathroom in this outfit. The good news is we have this amazing generation of genderqueer, non-binary, gender fluid individuals out here living their authentic selves. And I applaud that. And I also know that you're either trans or you're not. If you're not cisgender, you're transgender. I know non-binary, androgynous, genderqueer, all of that falls in the transgender umbrella. I know that you were born with a brain that does not match your assigned sex at birth. I get it. I totally get it. And I applaud you for being courageous enough to be open and honest and living your authentic best life. I do applaud you. But in my generation, you passed or you didn't. So my question for the dolls is, do I go with my 2025 version of the who, the when, the where, the what, the why to place this client and tell this client that now is comfortable with their brain and saying, I'm a woman, and put them in the men's room for their safety and or whatever? Or do I go with my 2015 version and be like, she's a woman, put her with a woman, regardless of her morning wood or physical sleeping in her, well, first of all, why are you sleeping in your boxers, girl? But, and then as a person who was accepted to a PhD program, currently not able to afford the PhD program, so I am not even, I mean, I got accepted. Am I a PhD candidate? I don't know. But knowing that you're born with a transgender brain and knowing that you're trans or you're not, just as if you're gay or you're not, like, we know, we could see a little child and know that that is a gay child. They might be closeted and trying to act butch, but we know, girl, we see you. Okay, okay, queen, we got you. We know. It might take you years to know yourself, though. It's funny how many straight guys would come up to me and tell me that they knew I was a girl before I knew. Well, that's not true. I knew I was when I was 4. But I was in denial and I was trying to tell myself and convince myself that I was a guy and I was comfortable with being a man. Literally, I was trying my best to pass as masculine and butch it up. Like I was performative in my masculinity if I was trying to be a man. But my question is, with clients, and my mind has been racking back and forth with this client. Well, they're not my client, but this probation officer's client. They're obviously trans. I'm not denying the fact that they are trans. They clearly have a female brain. And they haven't started their transition yet. How do we create a system where there's like, I'm a PhD candidate? Like, girl, you ain't done nothing to your body yet. Like, you can't get in the girls' dorm yet. Who polices this? And how do we police this? And especially with these policies of female-only spaces. Because the right is saying you could rape a girl and that you could anybody could put on a dress and go in there and rape a girl. Whereas we know that trans people are the ones being attacked, not the attackers. I'm sick and tired of that argument. However, when a person says, I'm trans, if you say I'm a PhD student, how do we communicate we're on the journey to womanhood, knowing full well that you're born transgender? Like, that's something that happened when you were 0 days old. But now that you've come to terms with it, you're beginning your journey. And I remember Tu Wong Fu, they're like, girl, yo, you got your princess points. Like, how do we do that as the trans community? How do we help the future dolls become future dolls without discouraging them from embracing their diversity or hiding or dimming their light? How do we encourage them and embrace them to be themselves while helping them be themselves without discouraging them? Like, girl, and when it's the same thing with weight. Like, for obesity, you're fat enough to get 2 seats on this plane. Well, am I tall enough? Am I broad-shouldered enough? Am I muscular enough? If The Rock is sitting next to me, or Dave Bautista, or they might need 2 seats too. It's not just big here, it's big. Who polices that? I'm confused. And I want to have a conversation about a transgender candidate, like a PhD candidate. Like, I'm getting my princess points or prince points for the trans boys. Granted, they get their stealth mode quick. And what if you never want to pass as male or female? What if you just want to be a gender queer, non-binary person, and you want to confuse people for the rest of your life? You should have that right too. There's no right or wrong way to transition. Some people never want hormones. Some people only want hormones. Some people never want a name change. Some people only want a name change. But how do we unify as a community and embrace each other in our diversity? Dolls, weigh in. I want to know what you think. Loving you, ZZ.